Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
All right, we call the meeting to order.
Good evening. Thank you, Councilman, Mr. Mack. The first thing on our agenda is project updates. So I do have a spreadsheet or a presentation I want to run through with you very quickly. At any point, if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. Beth, are you able to pull that? The whole presentation that I sent. You can do the video. Yeah. Yes, go ahead. It's okay. We can go without sound, Lenny. It's not a. So the first project that I was going to discuss with you was the Doty Park Playground. On May 3rd, we celebrated the opening of the Doty Park Playground, and the community came out in full force. Oh, there we go. Beth, are you able to pull up that PowerPoint presentation? You can't. Okay, that's all right. So did they receive it in their packet? Okay, perfect. There's just a lot of pictures that I wanted to share with you guys for all these projects. But the Doty Playground, it was supported with Community Development Block Grant funding. A lot of staff hours go into projects, even those that are contracted out. Staff made repairs to existing concrete entryway and gates. They tied in drainage from the playground to the park system and installed sod and landscape. This playground, we had, I don't know how many hundreds of kids out there. I gave away 100 free Italian ices and they were gone in the first few minutes. It was wild. I wish everybody could have made it because it was just a really neat experience. And it has been, since it's been open, it has been humming nonstop. And I think now, especially with the synergy between the splash pad and the playground, that is going to be the best place to play in Somerville this summer for sure. The second item that I wanted to share was the Somerville Preserve. Again, I had a lot of pictures of the updates for you guys. My staff has been on site. We've been doing a lot of the tree work, trimming shrubs and clearing the nature pathways. The walkways really are beautiful. If any of you are interested in coming out, taking a look, I'd be happy to meet you out there. The one thing that we did see when Blue Tide began working on the docks, we realized they were in much worse shape than we had realized. Granted, the initial survey was over 2.5 years ago because we were in permitting for that long. So we were evaluating our options to replace with new and to avoid a change order. We did alter the size of the dock, so it will be a slightly reduced footprint. Mr. Jackson was on site when we made that decision. So unfortunately, the downside is that we do have to get a new permit from DES. They did tell me that they believe they can turn it around in 60 days. So we are moving forward with that, and hopefully that will be the case. The Short Center Pavilion, I didn't have a lot of information to share on this project. It is steadily moving forward. They anticipate pouring the concrete this week for the footer. That site is really complex just because there's very little room for error. But again, hopefully you were able to see the pictures that I sent. The Gahagan Park. Last year, we had received accommodations tax funding for renovations at Gahagan Park. A portion of those funds were used to install shade structures on the 6 baseball fields and softball fields. It changed the look of that facility completely. If you go out there, it's one of the first things that you'll notice. It just elevated that park. So staff also replaced all the dugout roofs on our 4 fields. They're going to replace the 2 on the softball fields after their season concludes next week. So that combined with the new siding, the restroom improvements, that facility really has seen some significant enhancements over the past 8 months. So I wanted to share those with you as well. The last project, which is the Azalea Park Community Building, I shared a rendering with you last month. We put that out to the community. We received an incredible amount of feedback in a very short amount of time. The overall feeling and feedback was that the design just did not fit the area. And so I met with Eric with Epstein Architecture and provided him the survey results. We discussed it. He's working on a new design. And once we have that, I'll be bringing that back before you guys. And then with your blessing, we'll put it back out to the community. The next item, I just briefly wanted to mention, yes, we are already thinking about Christmas. It takes a lot of planning for Christmas. And we feel like we've really maxed out our current footprint in Hutchinson on Town Hall. And so we were really looking, our goal was to expand down West Richardson towards Biscuit Belly, just generally towards South Cedar if we could. I met with Dominion on site. Electricity is a hurdle for us to be able to do this. I'm waiting currently to see if they're going to allow me to upgrade some of the existing poles to poles with outlets. If they do, then we can move forward with that. If that option is not possible, another alternative that we have looked at are adding light pole displays along North Maple Street. I did just want to mention that because there is one risk if we go that route. I've been informed by Dominion that in the future, we may not be able to utilize the outlets on those poles due to liability concerns. Those are Berkeley Electric poles. I've not had conversations with them yet, but it is a significant investment. Even like a simple snowflake on a pole design, it's roughly around $500. We were looking at just doing the section from the interstate down right past Old Dairy. And that section has about 30 light poles on one side of the street. So even if we alternated, we're still looking around 15,000. So I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna reach out to Berkeley County Electric and have some more conversations. But if council has any additional areas that they would rather us explore or options, I certainly would welcome that feedback as well. The next item is the outdoor entertainment district. Last month, we had briefly talked about this and the committee was supportive of us drafting an ordinance or a draft ordinance for you guys for consideration. We're calling this the outdoor entertainment district. I think I know the answer, but Beth, are we able to pull up oh, there we go. Perfect. So you can kind of see the area that would be included. Essentially, within this footprint, you would be able to purchase a drink from a licensed server in that district. It would have to be in an approved cup, paper or plastic. They can't carry their own drinks. They have to purchase it in the district. They can't take it out of the district. The hours would be set by council. All existing state laws would remain fully in effect. And this is participation by individual property owner or business. So each business would have the opportunity to opt in or out. But essentially the idea is that if somebody wanted to take their beverage and walk down, shop in another store, or just stroll through the park, they would be able to do that. So tonight you had a draft ordinance for y'all's consideration. Can he send to the full council for Thursday?
Yes. Councilman Mack, if you would like, you can make a motion and with Councilmember Johnson on the phone, you could, if you wanted to move that to the full council, you could make that motion. She could second, the two of you could move that if you wanted to.
So I make a motion that we move it to full council.
I'll second that.
Okay. So just ask for a vote. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The next item is a review of a proposed 2-year renewal agreement for the Summer Girls Softball League. This license stayed exactly as it was last year, with the only change being the term changed from 1 year to a 2-year renewal. So similar to the outdoor entertainment district, I think if we can potentially send this to full council for approval.
All right. So I
I'll
make
make
a
a
motion.
motion, we send that to council.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
And then the last item for our agenda is the Somerville Parks Foundation, their 2025 annual report. So it was a really exciting year for the foundation. In March, we held the Berlin Bunny Bike and Walk to celebrate the opening of the new Berlin G. Myers extension. Some of you I know attended that event, and that was really just for the community. It wasn't a fundraiser. It was really just to support the community. We also held our Low Country Sings in August. That's our their major fundraiser. We will not hold that event this year because they wanted to change it to the beginning of the year time frame. And so the next time they'll host that will be in early 2027. They also new this year were hosted some events to support our inclusive dances. So that was great. We were able to enhance both of those dances throughout the year. You will see a deficit of $16,975. That is because we received a large grant in 2024, but we're still spending down the funds in 2025. And you can see a lot of that was for the Sawmill Trail renovations. The other addition this year was that the partnership for the Chris Solis Memorial, the Somerville Parks Foundation created a landing page and are the primary entity accepting donations on behalf of this initiative. And we've raised $19,000 thus far for that effort. And any questions about any of the information that I have shared that I could answer for you?
No, we thank you for everything that you're doing.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All right.
All right, we'll call the Planning and Development Committee to order, and Miss Jessie, we will give it to you.
Good evening. First item on the agenda is the request to rezone TMS number 13709010111, located at 727 Central Avenue, totaling approximately 0.23 acres and owned by Trilogy Partners of Somerville LLC from GR5 General Residential 5 units per acre to NB Neighborhood Business. This is in Council District 1. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at its meeting on April 20th.
I'll make a motion. We send to full council with a recommendation to approve.
I'll second. You got anything else on?
No, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is the request to rezone TMS number 13707160001, located at 103 South Magnolia Street, totaling approximately 0.34 acres and owned by David L. and Kimberly D. Garber from GR2, 2 units per acre to NMX Neighborhood Mixed Use. This is in Council District 2. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for denial at its meeting on April 20th.
You got it.
I'll make a motion. We send to full council with no recommendation.
I'll second that. And I think we probably ought to take a look at our zoning land use map at some point too, as a council. We're gonna keep having these coming up. I'll second that. No other discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item is petition by the Commissioners of Public Works of the Town of Somerville to annex Dorchester County TMS number 144000189, approximately 2.08 acres located along the Berlin G. Myers Parkway, which is currently zoned other in Dorchester County as PL Public Lands upon annexation to the Town of Somerville's municipal limits. This will be in Council District 5. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval of the annexation and zoning at its meeting on April 20th.
I'll make a motion to send this petition to full council with a recommendation to approve.
I'll second that. No other discussion? Anything else?
No, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is discussion on regulating the number of non-related tenants living in a single-family residence, and I will turn this over to Councilmember Halter.
Well, I hope you're going to help me out by expanding on this a little bit, Jesse, but can you help me understand how or what in our UDO allows us in the first place and why we have not been able to gain any traction on evicting all these non-family member residents?
UDO does not define a family, so it doesn't give a certain number of related or non-related individuals. It just says a single family residence. And so basically, you know, if they have a single lease for the property to rent it as a single residence, then we can't enforce and determine who may or may not be related, as we don't have a definition or a regulation as to how many unrelated individuals can live in a property.
So anybody in any zoning can rent out every room in their house. There's no limitation on the number of
No, they
bathrooms, the
cannot.
kitchens.
They cannot rent it by the room. They still have to rent it by the house. They can just rent it by the house to multiple individuals.
So all these individuals are living in the house in common. They don't have their own kitchens, their own bathrooms. We
Correct.
don't know. Have we even been inside the house other than when the SWAT went there 2 weeks ago?
I have not been inside the house. I don't have the ability to go inside the house.
I'm asking as a general question, not you specifically.
Yeah. single-family residence and with multiple unrelated people living there. They're not subdivided units within that structure, one kitchen, you know, multiple bathrooms, whatever. To be like, the city of Clemson years ago faced this with students renting out houses in single family and residential neighborhoods. And they put regulations in place to limit the number of unrelated people who could live in a house. But we can't prevent a private property owner from renting to some number of people under one lease on the same lease. The UDO prevents them. from
Yeah, I mean,
renting out
it can't be a boarding house. You can't rent it by the room. But if it is just a lease for the house and it happens to be that 5 individuals signed the one lease, we can't.
I was in college. I lived in a house with 2 other guys. We signed on the lease and we split the rent, but it was one rent payment, one landlord. And it didn't matter how many people were living in that house.
Yeah, I get it. And that's probably fine for a college town. Can we maybe get our hands on the language that Clemson use and reach out to municipal associations as well?
We already.
Yeah, I have that language. I have the language from City of Charleston. And I think I have it from one other entity. I don't remember which city I think Rock Hill is the other city I got it from. So my concern as the planning director and as the person responsible for zoning enforcement overall is I don't know how we would determine whether someone's related or not. I mean, someone can say, this is my brother, this is my uncle, I don't know how we determine whether they're telling the truth.
Well, I think the burden of proof would fall on the owner.
That's what I'm saying. Like, do they provide a DNA test? I'm like, how do they show that they're not related to that individual? Because you could be related, there's lots of different ways to be related. I mean, what if they have foster children? I just don't know how we would legally enforce that.
I understand. And since I've been on council, we've passed a number of ordinances that we didn't feel like we could enforce, but we did it because it was the right thing to do. Chief, are you prepared to maybe talk about the incident? Do you mind?
Real quick, before Chief comes up, Jesse, I have one question for that. So in regard to the lease and by room, how are we determining that somebody hasn't signed individual leases or do we have any kind of oversight of that?
I mean, we asked the owner to provide the signed lease showing how it was done.
Okay, so if I own a house in town and I rent it out to somebody, and I don't have rental properties, I just don't know, but so I'm gonna rent out a house to someone.
Generally, we do not require the lease, but if there has been a complaint made,
Okay.
then
It's after the complaint
I
that
believe
you
we
have
have the ability to ask for the lease to show that it's not being rented by the room.
And they're required to submit that, I assume.
Because we don't allow them to be rented by the room
Okay,
in order
got you.
to show proof
Show
that they're
proof.
not renting by the room. Yes, they would need to provide that single lease
Okay.
that's signed by the different
Individual.
individuals.
I'm assuming also they don't get a business license. Like no long-term leaser has to get a business license.
If they rent more than 2 long-term properties, I believe they have to have a business license, but if they're just renting one, no, they don't have to.
This individual does not have a business license.
I don't,
I think he only has the one. road.
Okay.
I'm not aware of whether has any,
Okay.
I'm not aware if he has any other, that's not my responsibility to
Mhm.
check. And I don't know if business licenses has checked that or not. But I can also say, should we put in place a definition for family? This property is existing. Generally, that way it would just become an existing non-conforming. And so I don't know that we could make them change how it's being used currently either.
I have some ideas about that. We'll get into that later.
Yes, sir. From the police standpoint, 105 Swift Court has become somewhat of a nuisance residence. It's my understanding that there might be up to 8 people residing in this home, none of which are directly related that I've been told. And that's not factual, but that's what I've been told. Certainly, we had a very serious incident that occurred there recently where we had to evacuate people into unsavory, circumstances to keep them safe. And for that, I apologize to you all that you had to be moved that way. But when we have a fluid situation, we try to get things moving as quickly as possible. And our number one concern is the safety of the people around the house. But this house has been what I consider a nuisance home because of the riffraff that's been allowed to come and stay there. And however they pay their rent or however they live or reside, I can't speak on that. But we did have drugs located in the home after we conducted a search warrant. And we have not been able to attribute them to anyone because there's so many people living there. And so that's a problem. And so I don't know what questions you have for me, Councilman, but that's the residents in question.
Prior to the most recent incident, how many times has the police department responded to one?
I sent it to you, sir, and I'll be honest with you, I did not read it again since I've sent it to you, but I want to say
It was a pretty lengthy list though, wasn't it?
it is, and it numbers from a number of things, from even civil disturbances, assault, obviously the most aggravating assault. That became a medical episode because the individual had to be transported. And then other situations, a lot of calls from the neighbors. They're very concerned for rightful reasons. And because this home sits where it sits, it's in a nice neighborhood, a nice tranquil neighborhood. And then you have this one home where we're having problems that we continue to respond to. So they are using our assets to get out there, and it's what I would consider, if it was a business, I would have shut it down already.
Safe to say this was not the first assault.
I would say that would be probably correct off my recollection.
So did you actually gain entry into the house here?
Yes, sir. We had to conduct two different search warrants. One, the Criminal Investigative Division had to conduct one that was for the battery and assault that occurred. And then we had to conduct an individual drug search warrant because we went in, the scope for the search warrant was only for the weapon and anything attributed to the first crime that occurred. So when we found drugs in plain view and paraphernalia in plain view, we had to go execute a second search warrant with the judge signing a second warrant for the narcotics unit to go in and conduct their own search warrant afterwards. And so I just spoke with the narcotics unit investigator who's the lead on it before I stepped into this room. And he told me that's still an ongoing investigation as to what's going on in that home, which I don't normally speak about, but I think it's very common knowledge based off the support of the residents here, and everybody knows what's going on there.
Are you able to describe, if you're able to,
Methamphetamine,
I'm sorry,
methamphetamine,
are you able to describe what your officers found?
methamphetamine.
I mean, the condition of the.
I mean, like you would think you'd find in not a hotel, a motel,
Mhm.
probably one nearby.
We don't need two of those in town.
Yes, sir.
Anything else you want to add?
Yes, sir.
Any direction? Any,
Yeah, I would,
wants to get the ordinance from?
Yes. yeah, and I would like for us to collectively, staff, me included, to draft an ordinance that we think might have some teeth in it. And as far as the number of vehicles that can be parked at a single family residence, some actionable, some way to take action if the police or code enforcement have to respond after so many times. And I'm not just trying to solve this problem, but I'm trying to make sure that this is not a problem throughout our town. Because these things don't happen in ones. So I guess not in the form of a motion, but what I'm asking is that we begin to draft some type of ordinance that would prevent this situation from happening.
Is that enough for you guys to work on something that we can come up with to move this along? I mean, I am not in complete disagreement that these are nuisance issues, and my only input is just that I know it causes trouble for especially the fine folks that are having to deal with this day in and day out, but we also don't want to take it too far to the other extreme to where we're causing problems for our property owners that are abiding by the law, that are doing like they're supposed to be doing, and then we put restrictions on them that are too heavy. So it's just one of those fine point pin issues of government that doesn't act very well. Government's always more of a blunt sledgehammer more so than a ping hammer.
If I may, I would suggest to your point, that I think that we would probably start on a complaint-driven basis rather than requiring people who have 6% property shows their lease to, that's just my initial.
Yeah, I'd be happy for me, you and whomever to meet on this outside of this committee.
Mhm.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Next one is discussion of proposed downtown overlay district in regards to allowed use of properties, and I will now turn it over to the mayor.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you both for your service on this committee. This has been quite a tough committee of late, but I think it was you, Councilman Halter, that was talking after some of our recent discussions that our zoning ordinances and where our land use is currently being used don't line up with the vision plan and a lot of the initiatives that we have discussed as a council. And there's varying reasons for that. One of the examples that I would say is if you have a professional services job, most people say, I'm okay with a professional services business being adjacent to a residential area. It's low impact, low turnaround. And that's why it's a conditional use that's allowed in residential currently, professional services. Also, we've heard a lot of discussion about bed and breakfast operation. But in the vision plan, they talk the community has really requested us to put an emphasis on bringing in out of town foot traffic for our businesses and kind of going back to the hospitality community near our business square that would make sense. This is also an allowable use in a residential district with conditions. So this overlay district is intentionally intended, my intent, if you guys as the committee deem appropriate, to develop an overlay district that marries some conditional uses that people are acceptable with in residential areas without having to rezone properties to more intense use like in DMX or something like that, that can bring with it consequences, negative consequences that folks don't want in their residential neighborhood. When I think about this, I think about the proximity to town square being kind of the basis for this overlay district, whether it's several blocks away or some distance, walking distance. Our parking garages here and in any area, parking is at a premium. So having a reasonable walking distance to our parking garage would make sense for something like this. But I throw it out there as a way for us to respond to what people are saying they're acceptable to without the negative consequences that people are not acceptable to in their backyards. So happy to answer any questions. I hope that came across well. I tried to write it several times and I just didn't feel like I captured it as well as I could just communicate the intent and then let y'all bounce questions off of me or Jesse for feedback.
So this would be an overlay district within the existing zoning districts.
Correct.
And it would be, let's say, for example, it would mirror the historic district, for example. I know you mentioned you want to try to stretch it out on the north side of the railroad tracks as well, primarily for business.
Correct.
Would you be limiting it to what types? Would you specifically be listing the businesses that were allowed in the residential zonings in this overlay district?
That is what I would intend, the ones with conditional uses. One of my thoughts, though, is to relieve some of the requirements by allowing non-owner occupied in some of these areas within this district. The concern with that is having out-of-town investors convert your properties to businesses and run multiple ones. So I would combat that with requiring them to be a Somerville resident, the ownership of that business to be a Somerville resident, so that they have their 4% property tax in the town. So they're within close proximity and share our values. So it's like their owner is occupied within the town limits, not within the business.
So other than a bed and breakfast, and I know we're going to change that title as well, but other than a bed and breakfast, are there other uses that you are contemplating,
The professional services,
like an attorney's office?
could be, yes, absolutely.
Because
It could be an engineering office.
Mhm.
The professional services, isn't it called professional services, Jesse? Yes, correct. And both of those are conditional uses in residential zoning and multiple zoning.
They're conditional uses as long as you don't have employees and, right, home occupation.
Correct. And this would relieve that pressure, but allow our community members to invest in some of these properties. If it's in, we're talking not just in the historic district, but other areas. So it could fix up an area on the northern side of the tracks, allowing this investment to happen, or it could help preserve and rehabilitate historic property that may need some investment in it. But they're not able to do it. Not everybody wants to live by the railroad tracks. However, they may want their business by the railroad tracks.
Ice House has done very well by the railroad tracks.
That's correct. But some of these folks don't want a restaurant, so it better be professional services.
I would make the argument, in fact, you'll hear me make this argument again on Thursday night, that the infusion of commercial money into some of these historic homes is, in my opinion, can be a good thing. If you look at Shelbourne Law, Leviner, Opal next to it, Studio 106, those historic houses have never looked better than they do now. And some of the other houses in that area would do well to have a little bit of love applied to them, maybe with some commercial money. So I'm all in favor of that. I do think we're taking maybe you and I have the same goal, but one of us is taking a longer way around the block, and that's okay as long as we arrive at the same location.
Understood.
So I'm more than happy to. Do you want to push this to the full council, or do you want to take a crack at writing an ordinance, or have our staff take a crack at writing the ordinance?
I'm okay with this as well. I like it because it's kind of a compromise to the situation. It gives us a little more authority and what actually goes there a little. It kind of narrows that scope of what businesses are within these residential areas right next door, which is, I think, helpful. But
Okay.
And I don't. Other than that, I think
I'm happy to leave it with your committee until it's ready to move forward,
done.
or if you push it forward to full council for discussion, I'm happy with that, or tell me to work with staff and present it to council.
I think I'd
happy to do
like
that.
to have a little bit more, because with any ordinance, the devil is always in the details, just like the issue we were discussing before this one. So
Yep.
I'd like to have a little more detail before we push it to full council, and I'd
Roger
be
that.
happy to help you write that as much if I'm able to. But it's your brainchild. If you're willing,
I'll work
I'd love
with
for you to
you,
run with it.
work with you and Jesse.
Yes, sir.
so you just get that written and we'll bring it back to the committee when we get it finished.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.
Okay, we're go ahead and open up our next meeting.
Right. The only item on the Public Works and Committee on Water Supplies agenda is presentation by staff of proposed Target Zero policy resolution for Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan. As part of the safety action plan that is currently being worked on, the resolution is a required component that needs to be passed before the plan is adopted. And the Vision Zero resolution establishes the town's formal commitment to reducing and ultimately eliminating roadway fatalities and serious injuries through a data-driven safety strategy. Adoption of this resolution for the Zero Policy Resolution demonstrates the town council's leadership role in prioritizing public safety for drivers, pedestrians, cyclists, and first responders. Council involvement is required throughout the Safety Action Plan process, and council will formally adopt the completed Comprehensive Safety Action Plan once it's finalized later this year. And approving this resolution positions the town to remain competitive for future federal funding opportunities tied to roadway safety improvements. And we have a demonstration grant that opens up this month that we are hoping to apply for, and having a resolution, Vision Zero policy resolution, will put us in a better position in getting that grant.
So what do you need from us?
No, just if you had any questions, so for when it goes to full council, or I guess they would need to, I guess it'd go to full council. We just didn't want to bring it to full council without knowing what exactly is this for, so.
Copy of the resolution in your packet, in your big packet. Doesn't commit us to any kind of spending or anything like that. We just are gonna continue to break principles of safety towards trying to reduce fatalities by 25% by 2035, and limiting this meeting and all by 2050. But all of the things the resolution commits the town to do is something that we're doing already through our planning.
Hey, Bonnie, can I ask a question? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Does this resolution have anything to do with the Safe Streets for All grant that we got already for the safety action plan?
Yes, it does. It is tied to the Safe Streets for All action plan.
And is there I think I remember there being a part 2 to that grant that we could potentially apply for. Is that part of what this is?
Yes, it is. The grant that we currently have is a planning grant to, write the comprehensive safety action plan. And then once we have that, then it'll make us eligible to apply for implementation funding and the demonstration grant funding. So.
Thank you.
Okay. So we don't need to take any action.
Do you need a motion?
Yeah.
I need a motion to move this to full council recommendation for approval.
Okay, I'll second that to move to full council for recommendation of approval. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Bonnie. Move we adjourn.
Okay, I'll second that. So all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
Robert Poole was up here right beside me. I'm messing up. Yes, sir.
When I get locked in there.
Find that one.
Oh, that's okay. Richard walked out too. Yeah.
All right, I think we have everyone in attendance, so I will call the Finance Committee meeting to order and turn it over to you, Ms. Rhonda.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. You have before you the April 30th financial report. We have 2 months left in the fiscal year. We collected $5.7 million in revenue for the month. Our year to date is 38 million. We have about 20% more left to go in our budget, and we know we have some big items remaining in the next 2 months. Our expenditures are $5.6 million for the month. Our year to date is just under 46 million. And I don't know if y'all had a heart attack when you looked at this like I did, but there are 3 paydays in April. I looked at the budget remaining thinking that, oh, we'll just have 2 more of these months. No, we can't afford that. So anyway, we're on target, but I just had a slight heart attack when I looked at this initially. Our transfers from hospitality tax are right on target with what we budgeted, a little over 3 million. So our deficit year to date is 4.5 million. We had certainly a net profit or revenues over expenses for the month of just over 400,000. Our detail for our revenue, first section is property taxes. We are at 98% of what we budgeted. We will get a little bit more in, but not much. So I feel like that is just where we need to be. Licenses and permits. We had a very good month with business licenses, obviously with renewal period. We collected a larger building permit. So those are the 2 items that really drove the revenue for the month. 4.3 million for the month, and year to date just under 9.8. We will start to get the business license insurance revenue in probably not until June really on that. We should hit our business license budgeted target this week, maybe probably by Wednesday we should hit that. So that's that was very good news. Municipal court, 37,000 for the month, just under 250 for year to date. Our state revenues of 452,000 and year to date just under 4.5. We got local option sales tax for both Charleston and Berkeley County after April 30th. So we'll actually show that as double in the next month, I expect. Parks and Rec, we have various income sources there, 44,000 for the current period, and year to date 535, and miscellaneous 182,000 with almost 2.4 year to date. Any questions on the revenues or anything in particular, any of those categories? Okay. Impact fees. We took in right at $400,000 across residential and commercial for impact fees, which was really good. And obviously when we have building permits, a lot of times we'll have impact fees at the same time. So those kind of go hand in hand for increases. And we have our net revenue, and all 3 of those categories are 1.3 million year to date, spread across the 3 categories. Any questions on any of those items? Hospitality, we're right on target with this particular fund. We collected 562,000 for revenue during the month, And we are 5.4 million year to date. It's about 87% of our budget. And our expenses that are noted there, 461 for the month, include the transfer to general fund. So right now we're still in a net revenue over expenses position for this fund of 450, almost 459,000. Local accommodations is much of the same. We're consistent with 42,000 in revenue and year to date 343. And we only had the one expenditure, I believe, for the year. Our net revenue in that fund is 234,000. Our last fund presented is Stormwater Fund. We have exceeded our revenue projected slightly at $2.5 million, and our expenses are right at $2 million. We have net revenue in that fund at this point of 490,000. I expect we will we'll probably have a small net revenue in that fund, but the next 2 months operating expenses will eat into most of that as we expected. Any questions on any of those? Anything else I've talked about?
Council members, nope.
The next item on the agenda is our CDBG discussion. We're fortunate to have Kat Hill on staff. She's certainly an expert in this, and we're trying to kind of spiff up our plan a little bit, make sure we have transparency. She's going to present to you some changes to the plan and some possible solutions to how we allocate the funds. And we'll have 30 days to kind of decide what we really want to do with the CDBG funds. And you saw the nice pictures of the playground that CDBG funds help produce.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council, and committee members. The items before you tonight are department recommendations and policy updates related to the Community Development Block Grant Program, including recommendations for proposed funding awards for the next program year starting on July 1st and ending on June 30th, 2027. We begin with discussion on proposed CDBG rubric. CDBG entitlement communities need to maintain written standards for selecting CDBG subrecipients and documenting funding decisions. Currently, the town needs a more formalized and secure process for evaluating public service funding requests. In front of you, you will see basic application requirements for organizations seeking our CDBG funding, all of which will strengthen the town's position during the next HUD monitoring and audit review. The applications will be evaluated against 6 criteria, which are 1, alignment with our con plan priorities, LMI population served and the benefit documentation, cost rationale and duplication of benefits, organizational capacity and financial management, past performance for prior subrecipients, and precision of need, measurable goals and objectives. The scoring range will be between 85 to 100, which is recommended for funding, 70 to 84, which is recommended with conditions with technical assistance, 55 to 69, which is under consideration, and funding contingent on resolution of noted deficiencies, and below 55, a score of 55 and below, which is not recommended. Furthermore, each of the 6 criteria before you are defined by a scoring descriptor and a score range. To ensure the integrity of the scoring process, the following procedures will apply. The CDBG program administrator will review applications for completeness within 10 business days. Incomplete applications will have 5 days to submit any missing information. Each completed application will be scored independently by the CDBG program administrator against the 6 criteria that I mentioned and documented on the official scoring worksheet for each application. The program administrator will prepare a written scoring memo summarizing each application score by the criteria, total score, funding recommendation, and any conditions recommended for the subrecipient agreement. The scoring memo will be given to the town administrator and finance director, becoming part of the permanent CDBG program record. The CDBG program year budget and recommendations will be presented to the Finance Committee and Town Council as part of the annual action plan for that year and will incorporate the subrecipient application score. The CDBG administrator will provide a written notification of funding decision within 10 business days after council approval of the annual action plan. Is there any questions on that?
How do you score an applicant if they weren't a past participant? Do you lower the max score to 85 or do you just give a 15?
No, so for the first-time applicants, the total score is calculated out of 90 possible points and converted to a 100-point scale by dividing the raw score by 90 and multiplying by 100.
Should have known you had the answer to that.
Can I ask you, would this scoring rubric be the same if we were non-entitled? I know we're an entitlement city for CDBG, but if we were non-entitled, would this be the same scoring rubric that would be used?
It's a great question. I've never looked at what non-entitlement communities are responsible to provide, like a processing selection. We are an entitlement, so we need to show HUD how we are processing and selecting these subrecipients.
Can we maybe look in the future, not now because we're already through this CDBG process this go round, but in the future, comparing if we did move to non-entitlement? I know then we cannot use, like, the big difference that I know of is with entitled, we can use, I think, 20% toward like administrative and planning versus non-entitled. You can't do that. But it goes more toward the actual cause of what CDBG is supposed to go toward. In the future, can we maybe look to compare what it would look like if we go non-entitled and apply for certain amounts versus entitled, and they just give us what they give us? Can you maybe compare that in the future?
Yes, I can look that up and I can provide y'all with entitlement policies and non-entitlement community policies, if that's helpful.
Just to know if there's potentially more money that we could potentially receive instead of like the set 272,000 and going to that's set what they're going to give us versus potentially maybe being able to apply for 400,000 when we're non-entitled. It would just be nice to see what the difference would look like.
The calculus y'all would have to make is, cause the non-entitlement is a competitive process.
Yep.
You could get nothing.
Yep.
But you could get up to, used to be $1 million. Is that right?
Yes, it's much more. If
Yeah,
you,
it's a lot. Yeah, but as an entitlement program, we know we're going to get, $270,000 to $300,000 every. So that would be.
I can't hear. I'm not sure if.
We'll look at it.
and if we were to move forward, we would, with the designation of the entitlement community, we would have to reapply again to become an entitlement community, and that's a very big process.
Council members, any comments, questions, feedback? I'll just tell you, Ms. Cat, thank you so much
You're welcome.
for organizing this in what I would call a logical, defendable, transparent way. We are passing out public funds through this process, and this will really help us communicate to the public why some people have X and why some people don't. And that will be the first time since I've been here that we've done it to this level of detail. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Can we get a motion?
Yes, thank you.
The rubric doesn't change from what we're doing now.
I'll move that we adopt the new rubric as presented here tonight.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second to adopt the rubric as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. The next item, C, proposed amendment to the CDBG Citizen Participation Plan. So because HUD regulations require amendments to the Citizen Participation Plan, also known as the CPP, when adopting new policies governing public involvement and funding processes, therefore, a formal amendment is being requested to incorporate the town's subrecipient selection standards into the Citizen Participation Plan. Furthermore, presented to you starting on page 49 is the preliminary policy language request change to incorporate a purpose, definition of a subrecipient, annual application requirements, eligibility requirements, evaluation and scoring, funding recommendations, subrecipient agreements, subrecipient monitoring, performance standards, conflict of interest, and appeals. Conflict of interest and appeals, and lastly, public access to selected records. The amendment must be published for a 30-day public comment period before final adoption by council. This policy framework will protect the town by reducing subjective funding decisions, creating a defensible audit trail, improve oversight of federal funds, and reduce the risk of HUD monitoring findings. So tonight I'm requesting authorization to release the Citizen Participation Plan amendment, a public notice, which is a public notice for the required 30-day public comment period, and return with final adoption after completion of the public comment period for council approval.
Do I hear a motion to release for public notice?
Yeah, I'll move to release the public notice.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, motion and seconds to release for public notice. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. Moving to HUD's CDBG 2026 budget sheet recommendations, I will walk you through the proposed funding and recommendations starting on page 62. It's going to look like a spreadsheet.
These are all on your agenda packets. Okay.
Yeah, it's page 62 on the PDF if you're looking at it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The Finance Department is recommending $10,000 to CDBG Program Administration by utilizing funding to administer the Town of Somerville CDBG program. The Finance Department is recommending $3,000 for program management and environmental review compliance. Funds will be utilized for consulting services for 2026 program year. The Finance Department is recommending $219,772 for the Doty Park restroom renovation project. The funding will be utilized to improve and upgrade existing public park restroom area. Prior year funding was used for ADA recreational infrastructure and equipment. The Finance Department is recommending $14,650 for the Somerville Fire and Rescue Cadet Program. The funding will be utilized for training, to purchase training and equipment, and include purchasing 5 sets of youth-size turnout gear. The Finance Department is recommending $10,000 to Keys to Change Anchor House Homeless Shelter to utilize $10,000 to support the men's shelter with operational costs. The Finance Committee is recommending $10,000 to Keys to Change Lighthouse Homeless Shelter to fund operational costs for the women's shelter. The Finance Department is recommending $5,000 to Meals on Wheels of Somerville to support Somerville's program with transportation costs and continuity of care for elderly persons and persons with developmental disabilities.
Can you explain the $10,000 to the Finance Department for the program administration?
Yes, ma'am. So that is going to be for staff time that work on CDBG funding or CDBG program administration. So it's my salary.
Okay. So out of 272,000, we've got about 40,000 going to low income projects from Keys to Change, Meals on Wheels, or you know, not even actually 25,000. The whole purpose of the CDBG program is to benefit low and low income people through housing projects and public services and infrastructure. I mean, that is the purpose of the CDBG program. I'm just curious as to why we didn't give more toward their request on this.
So all of the funding is going to the LMI population. Each activity is broken down. Either it's a whole LMI benefit area or it's just a program. So for instance, the Fire Rescue Cadet Program, out of those 10 families that are in the program, 6 of them are low, 6 families are LMI eligible. So in order for us to fund any of these activities, it has to be either a 51% demographics of low MI, or it has to be a program that you're serving low MIs. So that's why we're only able to fund Doty Park, because it's in that area for LMI.
Once these funds are granted to various organizations, is there an audit process to make sure the money is being spent? And can these organizations in turn use that money for their administration?
Yes, it would be personnel cost, operational costs, and that's what Keys to Change is requesting, to use that funding for operational costs, salaries, personnel costs. And your first question, I forgot.
Is there an audit process?
Yes, we monitor every year. So I would go out and do monitor, either a desk or in-person monitoring every year, and pulling the applications and reviewing everything in the quarterly reporting that they do, the subrecipients do.
So no opportunities for a Leering Center in Somerville?
No opportunities for what?
We can't have a Leering Center?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, okay, moving on.
I'll just share some of my quick concerns. I know that Keys to Change has presented to us seeking additional funding, which I know we are very tight on funding, and it's been, you know, a challenge to support people who do a lot of great things in our community. Since this is allowable, and I believe year over year, we have provided operational funds at about the level that we did last year. And I was wondering if the departure, which is a significant departure for a nonprofit of $14,000, is something that they are prepared for, considering, you know, that's a pretty big dip. I would almost advocate that we would, no offense to you, Miss Evans, seek some general fund revenue to close out the restrooms at Doty Park, and reduce that 219 by 14 and keep them at the same level as they were last year, because they do provide a needed service within the community. And I know that the bunker gear, you explained the ratio of contributions for the bunker gear, but I would look at Meals on Wheels that does serve a large portion of our LMI, and maybe reduce the 219 further by 5. And we shift that from a general fund standpoint over there and go ahead and fully fund their request as well. But that's just, when I look at the board and I look at our obligations, now Doty Park is certainly serves the LMI community, and those restrooms are utilized by a lot of folks. So I want to make sure that that doesn't put this project at risk. from my perspective, but I would kind of challenge the council to think about maybe that approach to it.
Yeah, I agree with Mayor Touchberry completely. I think that we need to try and help out these couple of nonprofits that do make a big difference in our community.
Those were the three three names I wrote down as well when we were going through the list. And I know we're talking about ATAX funds and a reduction of those are what we distribute to our nonprofits in town, that these same organizations, I'm sure, will be asking for, and with a smaller pot as well. So I would I agree with you 100%.
And I was going to say the same thing. I agree. I think right now we have the restrooms at Doty Park. It's not like we don't have any restrooms there. So I'd rather fully fund the three nonprofits that are listed here. And we can look at funding the restrooms at a later date or see if there's any money somewhere else that we can put towards that.
I'm sorry, I should have explained it a little more.
Oh.
So
Not at
the bold line activities are public service. We have a 15% cap on public service. So if you go down to the line, it says public service project is subject to 15% cap. So $40,000 out of $272,422 can only go to the public service. And that's the ones in bullets. That's why the projects up top that are not bolded, they're larger in size because there's no cap. We don't have to stay in that cap.
That's a neat little.
Yep.
And this is part of the difference with an entitlement and non-entitlement as well. But is there a way that we could move the cadet program funding? We could pay that out of general funds and then increase the other three? Is that a possibility?
Yes, it sure is.
I would agree with that approach. You know, with the priority being keeping Keys to Change at their prior year funding level, not at their request, and then, you know, that pretty much consumes most of the fire. But at least we're adding, you know, there was no previous year funding for Meals on Wheels, so they're getting an additional.
You know, I'm of course in favor of the fire program as well, but I do believe that we can find a way to make up the gear that they need for the cadets. I feel like we could squeeze that out somewhere, Chief.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll revise everything and then move forward for council's approval on Thursday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Cat.
You're welcome.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
Item E, authorization for staff to sign a contract to accept TAG award grant from SC Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism with a match coming from the hospitality funds. The request is from the Finance Department.
So the Finance Department is requesting approval to accept South Carolina Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism's 2026 Tourism Advertising Grant of $27,560.12 with a 50% match requirement coming from hospitality funds for a total project cost of $55,120.24 for this year's advertisement.
I'd move for approval.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Item F, authorization to issue a purchase order in the amount of $91,500 to North Carolina Railway Services for work performed on the North Maple Street Railroad crossing, paid for by the Roads Fund, and the request is from the Public Works Department.
Is this one of those that we were kind of,
If we don't pay Norfolk Southern, they're going to shut down Maple Street's crossing. I'm kidding. They're not. No, this is work that they performed as a part of the Maple Street Extension Project. We're going to pay for it out of our roads funds and then seek reimbursement from the county out of the Maple Street project funding. So, but we need to get them paid
yeah, okay.
for paid Norfolk Southern. Yeah.
All right. I mean, have we had any discussions with the county?
Yes. No,
Okay.
we're making that. We'll make application to get a reimbursement from those
Okay.
funds. Yeah.
All right. I make a recommendation for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing
I
none, all
just
those,
have one question. On the finance, on the revenue report, what is the actual roads fund? Which item is that on the finance agenda?
I don't usually present that on a monthly basis, but I can get you, it's where the franchise fee goes. And we use that primarily, the primary expense is to pay debt.
I see. Thank you.
right? Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it.
Item G, update on the proposed town of Somerville budget for fiscal year 26-27.
I wanted just to take a couple minutes just to kind of summarize. We talked about a lot of things over the last 4 months, a lot of moving parts. I can't say that I got them all right all at the same time, but I'm hoping to get that right before it comes to you on Thursday. So, one of the big things that we were kind of hanging our hat on was to be able to probably increase stormwater fees, shift some engineering overhead into that stormwater fund. And we were really trying to fit that square peg in that round hole and get that done by June 30th. But we kind of all came to the conclusion that that was too rushed. Our contractor really was going to be rushed. The county was going to be furious with us because they wanted their fees earlier than that anyhow. And we just felt like it was not going to be complete enough to be able to handle that. And that disappointed me greatly. But I went back and kind of went over all my numbers, actually folded in the concrete numbers. We had a lot of estimates with some of the pay plan implementations and some of that. So anyway, good news is I don't need that to make the budget work. So anyway, I'm hoping to present a balanced budget to you on Thursday that has the pay implementation in two parts, one in July and one in January in halves. So that's what I'm planning. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah.
So we're also going to put some, we usually have fees attached to our budget ordinance, so we can approve those all at the same time. It has to be at public hearing. And so as we were talking about stormwater, we also started thinking, we need to look at our engineering fees, our plan review fees and some of that, and see where we are as compared to our peers or adjoining neighbors. I think it came at part of our discussion that maybe some of those fees hadn't been adjusted in close to 20 years. And they're getting some darn good service from us for those fees.
So what you have here is we canvassed our neighbors, Goose Creek, Hanahan, Mount Pleasant, and Walterboro, for a notion of what their plan and plat review fees look like compared to ours. And that's the chart that you see there, right here. And you can see some of the various fees that they charge. And Bonnie, Rhonda, and Tom Pierce and I met, and we are proposing to you, and we'll propose to you for Thursday night, but I want to give it to you now so you can look at it and kind of digest it. Potential changes to our fees, our plat and plan review fees, in an effort to try and recover some of the costs that the town is incurring at the expense of all of our residents. These are fees that will be charged to folks who are coming in and doing development in town. You'll see down at the bottom, over the period of January 1, 2024 to April 4, I'm sorry, May 4 of 2026, May the 4th be with us. You see what the other jurisdictions collected in their fees based on our calculations, and you see what we collected, less than $6,000. Hanahan collected the most, about $39,000. What we're proposing to you is on this single sheet here to change our plat review fees, as you see, for non-commercial properties up to 50 lots would be a flat $100 fee plus $20 per lot. 50 lots or more would be a $300 flat fee plus $20 per lot. Commercial would be a $100 flat fee plus $50 per lot. Boundary easement and right-of-way reviews would be $100 per submitted plan. And resubmittal reviews, $50 each time we have to review something after the initial review. And that's something that Berkeley County does. They actually charge 50% of the total fee that somebody pays if they have to submit for a resubmittal. So we'll put these in front of you for your digestion questions that you may have now, and your direction on how you would want to see this, if at all, on Thursday night.
Is this only for subdivision? This doesn't include like an exempt plat or a boundary plat?
The boundary plats would be $100.
Yeah. So a couple that you left off are City of North Charleston, 0. Charleston County, which is probably the biggest organization in this area, charges $25.
For a boundary plat?
Yeah. The vast majority of people who are submitting an exempt plat or a boundary plat are homeowners, and I think that should stay at $20 or $25.
Okay. Happy to put that at 25. We just
Now subdivision is not typically our homeowner, so yeah.
Right.
Give them a fee as much as we think they can handle, but I do want to keep it affordable for our people.
Understand that.
And then I would say the resubmittal would be at the third submittal, because 100% of the time there's going to be a resubmittal. I've never seen a plat yet that got approved, especially a complicated plat or a subdivision plat that got approved on first submittal.
After third or at third?
At third.
At third.
To give them one free review, well, not free, you're paying for it, but they don't pay a resubmittal.
One free do-over.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we submitted 352 plats last year, and we got comments on 352 plats last year.
Yeah. And that was something that I was trying to reconcile as well. You know, what's the threshold, what's fair or not? So, okay, great.
And I do trust, I understand that Bonnie will give them comments and they address none of them and then just resubmit it. And that does.
That's what we're trying to disincentivize. Yeah,
Understood.
Yeah.
What do we,
Go ahead.
how do our building permits and impact fees level up against these other municipalities? Do we know? Rebecca? Right. Okay. Okay. So we were right there with them. I just, okay. Right.
Impact fees, we are among the highest in the region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
If
know
not
all of
the
the
highest.
all of this, goes into the cost of housing. So
Right.
it's
Yes.
new subdivision is great, and we want to keep our houses affordable. And these developers, they don't just eat this; they pass it on. So that's kind of the downside to this.
Agree.
For-
But I would, on the flip side of that, I don't think nobody's not building a house or
Right.
moving in.
No, I agree 100%. It's just
Right.
I always just look at the price of housing here, and
The anti-growthers like this,
Yeah.
the pro-growthers may not like.
and
it.
I don't dislike it either. I like it too. I just know that when people my kids' age are looking for houses, they aren't looking to Somerville anymore. That makes me sad.
Yeah, I understand that. If you adopt this fee schedule here, then that would generate, based on the same plat review numbers that you see on the chart, it'd be around $40,000 or between $40,000 and $45,000, give or take. Not a lot of money, but at least at least we're getting up to 2026 standards instead of 2004 and 2005. So that's part of our aim as well. So we'll submit that to you. Continued discussion if you want to have it tonight, or if you're okay with that, this is what we will present as a part of the budget ordinance for first reading on Thursday night, obviously knowing that it can be changed before second reading.
When you are going to propose it on Thursday, are you going to amend it per those two
Yes.
comments?
I've got the notes.
I think that's good to take that burden off of our,
Absolutely.
small fish. Yep. All right, perfect. Thank you.
We have is there a max? So $100 or $300 plus $20 per lot up to, or
We
they have 1,000
I did
lots
not
of,
see any maxes on any of the
Okay.
comparative charts.
We did a couple of years ago, we went through building and probably planning, some of planning's fees too. And we should have probably addressed this earlier in our budget process and just kind of, as we were talking about stormwater, we just kind of, Bonnie's like, how about this? And I said, we really need to talk about it. So sorry, it's last minute.
Other questions about that? I have one more thing, if I may, and that's regarding the retiree insurance policy. This is a draft policy based on the discussions that y'all have had and the instructions that you've provided to staff. And again, this won't necessarily be a part of the budget ordinance Thursday night, but we are going to ask you to approve this by resolution. That's how our personnel policy is adopted and revised. So this would be a revision to the town staff personnel policy. And I'll just point out real quickly, you in the graph 2 will retain the right to change it at any time or eliminate it. And you are going to make decisions on an annual basis to continue the policy and set the amount. Per your instructions, in the second graph, policy is effective July 1st, but it's if somebody retired after January the 1st of this year and before July 1st, they would be eligible to enroll in the program starting in July of 2026. $850 a month in reimbursable expenses that are documented medical expenses covered by an individual or group medical plan. That, I think when y'all talked about it originally, and maybe some subsequent conversations, you were talking about insurance premiums, restricting it to premiums. But as we talked about it as staff, perhaps you're covered by under a spouse's plan after you retire, but you're still going to have expenses that would be. And so our benefit coordinators, or whoever our third party administrator is sometime in the future, would vet reimbursement requests against what's allowed under an individual or group medical plan. And so that would cover copays, deductibles, prescriptions, those kinds of things. I believe in y'all's conversations that's what you want. You didn't want to restrict it just to insurance premiums. But if I'm wrong, let me know now so we can make the adjustments on the policy.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Yep.
So paragraph 5, to receive reimbursement, retirees will submit documentation to the town's third-party benefits. What if I'm a retiree, I had no expenses this month?
Right.
Do I get zero?
So that's something that we talked about in terms of whether or not it would roll over. And I'm glad you pointed that out. And Chris Grant, before he retired, congratulations, Chris. This is his first day of retirement. He pointed out that, let's say you incur some expenses in December, but you don't actually get billed until January or February. One of the things that we would do is set the reimbursement period to extend to like the end of first quarter of the following year. But then also, if you didn't use your expenses in one month, they would roll over to the next, but the max benefit would be that 850 times 12 that you would have to spend before the end of that first quarter in the next calendar year. That makes sense?
No,
Okay. So I
because
didn't,
I don't think this is at all what we talked about, at least not my understanding. I thought we were just going to give them a check every month where they have expenses or not for $850 that they put into a health savings account. This program is not supposed to be driven by claims. It was supposed to be a stipend each month.
so y'all want to set up an HSA for retirees that we would administer through our third party benefit administrator.
I thought that's what we had been talking about all along.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Is this not essentially
No, this, as I'm reading this,
that structure?
as I'm reading this, you get up to 850, but only if you are seeking reimbursement for a claim.
Right.
So if you have no claims this month, you get $0.
But it adds up to be utilized 12 times
Yes.
850. So
This, unlike an HSA, this would not necessarily roll over to the next year. And an HSA, I don't know if an HSA or if it's an FSA, one or the other. Too bad Katie's not here. One or the other can be used for other expenses other than health benefits, health expenses. So if an HSA is what you're wanting to do, then we need to go back to square one and get with benefit coordinators to set that up, because that's a whole federally regulated and much more intensive process.
is it intensive on their side, or if I thought that would be a less administrative burden on our side?
I think that's what we thought, but if I remember correctly, maybe an HSA, you cannot pay premiums with those.
Right. Yes.
I want to think that was the hurdle we ran into, so
Right.
we were trying to
James,
find a solution.
yeah, James Barrett at Benefit Coordinators told me that this morning, again, whenever I asked him some clarifying questions. You're exactly right.
See-
You can't pay insurance premiums through an HSA.
But this, we would be able to pay insurance premiums
Yes,
and anything else related.
this is not tied, this is a policy that y'all set and is not regulated by federal rules or state laws or anything like that. You're setting the rules on how this money can be spent and how it gets paid to the individual. Now, if you want to just write it, if you want to write them a check, once you write that check, I don't know how we regulate how they spend that money before it gets spent.
I don't know why we would want to. That's not the conversation I thought we were having. All right, so I retire.
Yeah.
I go get my private health insurance. It costs $1,200 a month.
Mhm.
You'll reimburse me every month up to 850.
Mhm.
Okay. I retire. My wife has insurance. I'm on her insurance. Does that get reimbursed?
Yeah.
I'm on her
Not
insurance.
her insurance. Her insurance does not, but if you incur deductibles as a part of your coverage through her, then you get covered. You would be
Yeah.
paid this from this
Well,
month.
God willing, I don't have $850 of deductibles in
Right.
one month,
Right.
but this is not the conversation that I thought we were having.
Okay.
And maybe I'm the only one who misunderstood that, but
But no,
No, I
honestly,
thought
did
we
too.
were approaching it from an HSA. I recall that standpoint, but we never talked about it since y'all maybe met some headwinds on that.
Well, the HSA, Ron is exactly right. With an HSA, you cannot, because that's a supplemental plan to what the employer is providing.
What I might be understanding the difference in these two approaches is we just continue to roll over. They have to use documented
Yeah, I mean,
and continue to roll over. Is that how you budgeted this, Rhonda?
I budgeted $50,000 this year, thinking that we would have several people.
so the projections that Chris did, my understanding was every person he projected out every person who could retire with 20 years and from now to
25 years.
10, okay, 25 to, thank you, 10 years from now, he projected that.
Yeah.
And that was assuming $850 per month per person until they reach age 62.
Assuming full utilization every month. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think, and if they can't use the HSA to pay their premiums, and I say we just stroke them a check for $850 a month. Because that's kind of the promise we've been making them.
Then that is, if you write them a check, then, and they cash that check, you have lost all control over how that money is spent.
Okay, God bless them.
And if that's that's what council wants to do, then
If they don't use it on insurance and they get in a major car accident, that's, I don't think we have the horsepower to manage that. We don't want to try to manage
Well,
that.
the reimbursement approach is the way to manage it. To ensure that the money gets spent how we thought you intended for it to be spent. And if that is on medical expenses, then that's how you would make sure that it gets spent where it does. They spend first and then they get reimbursed.
I would prefer that they spend on medical expenses, but once they retire, we're not managing them anymore. That's why
Understand?
they're retiring. They don't want us managing them. And I don't want to manage our health insurance. The thing I'm having objection to is that they get reimbursed up to $850. It's just $850 per month. However, at best, if it's an HSA, if it's just a check, we write them.
Well, then that's not a retiree, that's not a retiree insurance policy.
Well,
That's
what I
just-
would,
That's just a straight retiree benefit.
It's like a,
what I might add to
Pension.
where Councilman Halter's going. Your concern is that if they're covered by a different coverage, that they're not reimbursed. We interpret how reimbursement, so if he's on his wife's coverage, whatever that dollar value is, it's just like a group plan, a family plan that we would.
Yeah.
So if that's his spouse and he's covered under that, 100% of that could be eligible from my perspective.
Right. So if we
So
did,
that, why would we cross that down? It's covering you as the spouse. We would have spousal coverage if you were on our insurance. So it's the same thing. That $850 would be eligible from my perspective. I wouldn't want to.
well, if we did the projections, assuming that everybody who could take advantage does take advantage and that works financially, then I think we stick to that plan. Now, how we accomplish that, I think is just like, I think we're on the same mission.
Is that
Let's
a
just-
W-2 or a or a 1099 for tax purposes? They'd
Can
be
we look at the finances of this again, just to make sure that we're all on the same page of what this is going to cost?
well, I think
I
we
think
have
you
that
projected the
projection.
worst case
we-
scenario cost.
Yeah, we projected that out. That's what Chris Grant presented to you a couple months ago and a couple at budget workshops.
Right, but I was thinking that now it sounds like it's something different. But you're saying we did project out the worst case scenario, which is what we were thinking, the $850 a month, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so instead of being less than $50,000, you're going to spend $50,000 or whatever those numbers were. So if that's what y'all want to do, is to provide retirees under some criteria an $850 check every month, then that's easy. Hey, you gotta be.
But there's tax implications on that,
Yeah,
which
that'd
is
be
different than
yeah.
that.
We'd have
So
to issue, it's
let-
income for them.
Let's, if I'm, council members, if you agree, this is the first time we received this and really dove in detail.
Yep.
Let's digest it, be prepared to discuss that with our first budget ordinance. We have first reading, we have second reading, we have a public hearing, we have 2 months of opportunity to change our policy on this, and we already have it budgeted overall, the dollar figure necessarily for the worst
Yeah.
case. So we can rearrange the chairs
Yeah,
as
I mean,
it sinks
the-
or if it floats.
yeah.
One more question. You had said that you had budgeted 50,000 for the rest of this budget year. So really, we're talking over 100,000.
No, it would be as of July 1st through the end of to June 30 of 2027.
Oh,
Would be the 50,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it really
Of-
came out be
Of
less than
who
that,
would
but-
be on this plan right now, correct?
Pardon?
Who would be on this plan right now? Who would be eligible for it? That's what you calculated it
Yeah.
on, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We'll look at it. We'll look at it and see. I think we probably maybe got offline when we were trying to find a administratively efficient
Yeah.
methodology. But we'll,
Yeah.
I
And,
think there
and
was
I'm
a
sorry to miss communications on my part, but I thought we were walking down this path together, but one of us diverged.
No, no, that's fine. So so what I'm hearing then is much simpler. We just need to set what the criteria is to receive the benefit, which is in where is the criteria? Oh, down here at the bottom, requirements for eligibility. Bullet number 1, except for employee must have worked for the town continuously for a minimum of 25 years and retired and no amount of time working for another PIBA participating organization, that's state retirement, counts toward this requirement. So they got to be here all 25 years. Employee has to formally retire through PIBA, state retirement. We can strike bullet 3, strike bullet 4.
Well, I think you keep 3. They're still responsible for getting their own insurance. Now, we're just not checking whether or not.
Well,
they do.
we're not calling it anything. You're just getting straight cash benefit. You can spend it on whatever you want.
Well, wait a
for
minute,
health
there's tax implications to
Yeah,
that.
that's what I'm,
Well,
so
no,
one thing I'm
no,
worried
you're-
about with that is,
Tax implications, no matter how you spend the money. This is a benefit, this is a taxable benefit that the employee's getting, whether they spend it on medical.
even with a medical reimbursement,
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was tax.
I don't want to strike 3 because I want to be very clear. This is for health insurance. The only difference is we're not checking behind them to make sure they're actually spending it on that.
Well,
Number 4 is the
Then-
only one I think is
then-
going to be strike.
Well, we
Then-
could be here all night discussing the
Well, no,
nuances. Let's,
No, we need clarity on this, if I may. So we're just gonna write them a check for $850. And they go out and spend it on a new TV. Unless we ask for some documentation from them to show us, then I'm not sure how we get to where you want to make sure that they spend it on medical insurance coverage.
It's probably not, this is not a mandate, a statement. So this can probably stay.
But how do I prevent them from spending it on a TV instead of medical insurance? If we don't ask for, I mean, we could ask for the documentation, but if they don't give it to us, then what recourse do we have after that? I guess that's my problem.
Yeah,
That's
and-
my.
yes, sir. And I absolutely understand your problem with this, but the promise that we have been making them for the last several months, they will get $850 a month. We didn't say reimbursable at $850. We didn't say.
Understand, but
So wasn't it for them to purchase at their own insurance plan though?
yes, but again, how do we ensure, or do we care if that they spend it on what you intend it to be spent on? Because if we don't, then we just write them a check for $850.
right now, I think you have varying answers on that point.
Okay,
yeah,
I'm-
I think so.
I'm not
too.
sure. Let's,
To nail us down, I am for a reimbursement program, but I'm also for the eligibility of that to be their spouse's insurance that covers them.
Yeah.
If an HSA didn't allow for premiums, then this is better than what an HSA is. But I think we want to have some level of documentation personally. But I want to make sure that their spousal coverage of the family or their spouse counts towards them, because that would,
as an example, the Leslies are the only retirees who are benefiting from a previous retirement benefit plan. They spend the money, they pay for their health insurance, they bring Rhonda documentation, she writes them a check for whatever amount it is that their old the policy that they got grandfathered in, or maybe that policy's ended, but anyway, that's how they were doing it.
Is that every month, quarterly?
No,
or
it's,
annually?
they would bring it annually, once a year. The Leslie's, yeah, they would bring it in
Renew.
once a year.
Yeah, I absolutely want them to use it for health insurance. And I'm trying to make it easy administratively, but I don't want to create a situation where they're retiring. They think they're getting $850 a month and for some reason they don't. Because they didn't have any expenses that month. I do want them to use health insurance. That's the reason that we're doing this.
Well-
I'm not doing this just as it's not a just $850 a month as a retirement benefit.
Understood.
It's a health insurance benefit,
Got it.
but how we do that, I think is getting lost in the translation, or maybe I'm not understanding. I don't know.
Well, let's sit down and
Okay.
talk it through. Okay, all right.
Scott, I do have one question though. So, and
Yeah.
on the reimbursement issue, and I want to make sure I was clear on this.
Sure.
If they spend their money on a health insurance plan and they get reimbursement by this policy as written,
Mhm.
would that income that comes to reimburse that, it is taxable income then?
I believe so, but we can check. We'll
Okay,
check.
I would love for us to find a way to where it's not taxable income because I mean, $850, I did some quick math just now and that'd be like a $2,500 tax bill on our employees that are getting 1099 for. Yes, sir. Chief.
Sure, it's not taxed, FSA or HSA.
Okay.
It's pre-taxed.
Was pre-taxed from us, our employees, because it comes out of our
It comes
check
out of their check. Yeah, it's
before
pre-tax.
taxes are
Yeah,
withdrawn.
We
So
don't have we're not deducting.
we're
it
not
from-
deducting anything
yeah.
from their checks. So
Well,
we're
well,
just
I'll
giving
find-
them a check.
I'll find out.
Yeah. That'd be a pretty big tax surprise in April for some of our retirees, a $2,500 bill.
Understand. We will check into that. I will call James Barrett at Benefit Coordinators back and talk to him about that more. Okay.
Discuss and take desired action to prepare for sale of town-owned property at 108 North Cedar Street. This is the police annex / Dominion property.
I'll be happy to start you there. I know that it is a request, but we've had several discussions about the Dominion tract. That is obviously property that our public safety professionals are using as a lifeboat, also known as the police annex. But when our public safety and municipal complex is completed, the hope is that if we start our discussion now on getting organized on what this property, what we want this property to be, and we go ahead and get it, whether through an RFP process or however we competitively get it out on the market, we find a partner who shares our vision for it, who can go ahead and start doing the due diligence, and we're able to close on the property where they may have a design and be permitted so that they can go directly to work as soon as we vacate the premises. So we don't lose time and have a large vacant property within our town. Mr. Administrator, what did I miss?
No, I think that's it, Mayor. If the council would like to get the jump start on that, that's something we can do. There's already been a prominent local developer who's inquired about it. Actually, several have. So I think there's going to be demand and an opportunity to get a good project over there and give you very good control from the outset on what can go on that site.
I do want us to be intentional though with what we want to see there. Make sure it's in line with the vision plan and what is compatible, or maybe if there are some gaps that we have within our downtown, this is something we can drive redevelopment since we own this property for that.
I don't believe council has really determined what they want to go there at this time. How are we expecting that to look?
I can set up an ad hoc committee to do just that. If you think that'd be useful, we can engage our business partners, like Somerville Dream or the Chamber of Commerce, to have some sort of conversation.
Is that DMX, Jesse? That's DMX.
That is DMX.
Yep.
So we may
I
want to be
believe
intentional.
what Mayor just said would be a great idea.
Okay,
What we would
I'd-
like to do is get your permission to move forward in terms of going ahead and assessing the site with regard to environmentals and that kind of thing. We just move
Absolutely.
forward with
That's
that.
a great idea.
Just get that going. And then, once y'all get to a point to where you have a sense of what it is you might want to see there, then we can put out RFP, and then see what we get from interested parties.
Yeah, agreed. And I'd kind of like put out the RFP without us telling, sometimes these developers have much better ideas than
Mhm. Agreed to.
Don't disagree, yeah.
so.
that sounds good. Do we need a motion on that?
Well, so, I mean, whatever
I,
motion.
I,
you make.
I don't necessarily think that we should, let a developer dictate what we want in our town. I think we should have a general idea, give them a general idea of what we want in the town. At least somewhat. I mean, they could narrow it down a lot more.
The vote would be if you needed, council approval to move forward with
Yes.
the environmental.
Well, let's not restrict it to environmental. Let's say something to the effect of give us permission to move forward with preparing the site for bidding or an
Okay.
RFP process.
There
How
you
about
go.
that?
Now, is this actually posting it for an RFP or preparing it for RFP?
Preparation.
Preparation.
So moved.
Second,
All right, motion in a second to ask staff to move forward so that we could prepare an RFP. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Designate amount of available state accommodations tax funds to qualified town projects and applicable grants for tourism-related expenditures. Request from Finance and Parks and Recreation Departments.
You mean to take that one or you want to take that one?
Thank you.
Since you're the ATAX.
This year we have $600,000 available in state ATAX funds for qualified town projects and applicable grants for tourism-related expenditures. We have started to receive a couple applications in so far. Amy also had 2 requests that we can pull from ATAX. One is for Gahagan improvements for $100,000, and then Somerville Sweet Tea Half Marathon 10K, 5K requesting $17,000. What we're looking for from y'all is, I guess, approval to dedicate that $117,000 to the town qualified projects, and then whatever remainder would go to the applicable grants for tourism related expenditures.
Council members, thoughts, discussion?
Can you talk a little slower? Sorry, I'm trying to follow numbers on your sheet that I can't keep up with.
So we have $600,000.
Yeah, got that one.
State tax funds that can go towards qualified town projects,
Yeah.
such as the 2 that are on the screen, Gahagan improvements, which we funded last year from state tax.
Yeah, okay,
And we also funded the Sweet Tea Half Marathon from ATAX as well.
okay. So
I
that's
make
all
a motion that we
stuff, yeah.
approve.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, motion and a second to approve setting aside the 117,000 for Parks and Rec of the 600,000, and that would provide what, 483,000 for the all. Any discussion?
yeah, I have a question on the 25,000 from Dorchester last year, hoping to get the same again this year. Would that be an additional on top of the total here along with number 2, the Sweet Tea, or is that just an additional 25?
So we've identified 124,500. The request is for 100,000. That's assuming that we're gonna get the 25,000 a year.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Now I see the 100 and then I see a separate 17,000, hoping that, okay, makes sense now.
As far as the other funds, how does that compare to what we were in the past last year for the
Can you talk slower?
grants?
Can you ask me slower?
comparably the 400 and.
Last year, we had kind of an anomaly and we had over $1 million to give in grants.
Okay.
It hasn't been like that in years before.
Right. Okay.
It's been between 400 and 700.
So we're tracking about our average then. Okay.
Yeah, last year, we just happened to have a lot come in and that we were able to give to the organizations.
Very good.
So they are aware that we have less this year.
Okay.
I've told them a couple times.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion, council members? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Got a couple of announcements. Our own Amy Evans earned her Certified Park and Rec Executive Certification from the National Park and Recreation Association just recently. And she is one of only 10 in South Carolina that have that designation. Fire Chief Brent Melcher earned his management degree from Trident Tech 2 weeks ago, I believe. So congratulations to him. It's a management degree. And Jesse Schuler was installed as the president of the South Carolina Community Development Association for 26-27. So your staff continues to set itself apart across South Carolina and certainly within our community. So good job to all of them. That's all I have. Questions, issues, aside from what we've discussed? Okay.
Thank you.
Review of the draft agenda for the May 14th council meeting as included in the May 11th standing committee agenda packet.
Any items of question? All right, hearing none, we'll move on.
Executive session?
I move to enter executive session to discussion of matters related to the compensation of department heads and direct reports to council.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to go in executive session to discuss matters related to compensation of department heads and direct reports to council. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are in executive session and we'll just have Mr. Slatton